You are short. You are short. Today is Wednesday, January 29, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, a cop in Prince George's County has been charged with murder for shooting a black man handcuffed in his police car. Now, the Prince George's County State's Attorney is looking into 2 other shootings involving that police officer. We'll talk with the State's Attorney right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered. An exclusive interview with Dr. Bennet Omalu. Of course, he is the doctor many widely credit with discovering CTE. But the Washington Post printed a long article saying he did not discover CTE and pretty much calls him a salesman. He's going to respond to their story right here. The Trump administration has plans to make it easier for banks to discriminate against black people who want loans. I thought he was doing so much for black people. Another man has died in a Mississippi prison, bringing the count up to 13 this year. Also, Virginia is officially the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, clearing the way for court battles over whether the measure can be added to the United States Constitution. And why do stars keep passing up black media on the red carpet at award shows? I'm going to show you a video. Plus, we remember the life of Hall of Famer football player Chris Doleman. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, a Prince George's County officer charged with murder after killing a handcuffed man. He is ordered held without bond today by a district court judge who ruled the officer is a danger to the community. Corporal Michael A. Owen Jr. was arrested Tuesday night, less than 24 hours after he repeatedly shot William Green of Southeast Washington, who was handcuffed inside the police cruiser. Here's a news conference held today by Prince George's County Police Chief Hank Stawinski.
Our community knows that when I have the facts, you will have the facts. For the past almost 24 hours, I have remained in constant consultation with members of our Special Investigations Response Team, our Criminal Investigations Division, our Forensic Sciences Division, and our use of force experts. This has been a thorough and exhaustive review of all form and manner of evidence available to us, as well as a review of the preliminary findings of the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the District of Columbia. And here are the facts. I am unable to come to our community this evening and provide you with a reasonable explanation for the events that occurred last night. I am unable to come to our community this evening and offer you a reasonable explanation for the events that occurred last night. I have concluded that what happened last night is a crime. And as a result, I have directed our Special Investigations Response Team to charge Corporal Michael Owen with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and associated weapons charges in the death of William Green.
Joining me right now is Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. Glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you so much for having me back.
First and foremost, I understand that you are also looking into 2 other shootings of this police officer.
Actually, there is a request by the family, who's the next of kin, in one other incident involving the same officer. They've requested that we review the evidence in that case, and we will be taking a look at that evidence. That was from 2011. So, of course, that predates my tenure as state's attorney. But we try to be responsive to the public, and we believe that it's important that the families understand, all of the facts that the office was presented with at that time. Again, I was not the state's attorney at the time, but it is my office, and I'm responsible for, providing as much information as I can to the family.
The decision to arrest the officer, and the chief said it was his call. What role did your office play in any of this?
Well, let me just say this, as with any case, and I want to just say this from the outset, just because this case is in the very early stages of the investigation, Officer Owen is presumed innocent until he is proven guilty. So the police did make a decision to charge, as they do in most cases involving criminal action. They make initial charging decisions, and then we review those charges. We screen the case. In this case, because there are felony charges, as with any felony case, we will use our grand jury process to interview witnesses, collect any additional evidence, and make final charging decisions before we move forward.
Folks, this is a photo here, a booking photo of Corporal Owen as he appeared today in court via video. Attorney Brave Boy, when we look at this case, first of all, a lot of people have been very shocked at how quickly this officer was charged. It is very rare to actually see that. And as you said, now it goes through the next step process. So now he was charged by the police officers, which now means that moving forward, you will now take this to a grand jury to seek an indictment, correct?
Well, what we do is we collect additional evidence. So we use our grand jury process, and we ensure we are seeking the truth, and that's bottom line with the process that our office is responsible for. That is the result. We would like the result to be whatever the truth is, and whatever the truth is, that's the direction we'll move in. Again, because it's so early in the investigation, and I certainly don't want to compromise the integrity of the investigation, I really can't go into a lot of details about this specific case, but I can tell you that my office has been very diligent in every case, but in particular in cases where officers have been involved. I've had to, under my tenure, indict a few police officers. We've had 2 trials so far. We have been successful in those trials because we don't just move forward on cases just for the sake of trying an officer. We move forward on cases where we believe that's what justice requires. And so in this case, we are a neutral body. We are independent of the police department. We will review the evidence that they have, but we will also conduct our own investigation and make appropriate charging decisions.
Attorney Aisha Brave Boy, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Go to our panel here. Joining us right now is Mustafa Santiago Ali, former Senior Advisor, Environmental Justice for the EPA. Scott Bolden, former Chair, National Bar Association, Political Action Committee. Deontay Johnson, Founder, President, Black Conservative Federation. Start with you, Scott. The fact that this police chief moved this quickly. Shooting took place Tuesday night. He moves on him the next day, arresting him for second-degree murder. That is extremely rare.
Yeah, but you can get a lot of facts in a very quick manner. What's interesting about this case is the other police officers who were there on the scene gave the victim immediate resuscitation efforts. But as a former prosecutor, let me say 3 things. 1, we don't have all the facts. There are a lot more facts to this. This is a really extreme case. Secondly, most police regulations say you don't handcuff a defendant or an arrestee and put him in the front seat.
Right.
They usually put him in the back seat.
Right.
Right? So why was he in the front seat? We don't know how many officers were there, but was there a prior relationship between this police officer and the arrestee? And then the shots. He shot him 7 times. That's an execution.
He shot a handcuffed man.
A handcuffed
7
man.
times.
7 times. Now, that's some level of anger, if you will. And so, lastly, either there's a prior relationship and bad blood, in my opinion, or you may have a psychotic cop who may have killed others, and he just hasn't been discovered by the police department or testing or what have you.
Well, Mustafa, one of the family members of another victim said that that person did not have a gun.
And it was a bad fire or
If John Bolton
he has
for them to investigate political rival, there's nothing wrong with making a call. Presidents talk to other presidents.
But on the call, he shouldn't have done the call. But on the call, he did not break a law. He did not.
I'm sorry. The Constitution. Let me be real clear. The Constitution.
He didn't say.
I'm sorry. Let's be real clear. Deontay.
For me. He didn't say for me.
Deontay. The Constitution does not require for a law to be broken in order for a president to be impeached. Now, your boy Dershowitz said that 20 years ago. Now he's changed his opinion.
Right.
So y'all can make up your mind which one is it now. But the question still again is, did Donald Trump ask the president of Ukraine to investigate the Bidens, and did he in turn tell his people, we're going to withhold the aid from them until they do? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is that wrong?
No.
It's not wrong.
No.
It's not wrong. So what? So what is it? Just we should do it? We should let him do whatever he wants to do?
The purpose of him doing it was not personal gain.
How so?
Is everyone
if
says,
it wasn't personal
gain,
gain, if you're asking them to investigate your political rival, well then whose gain is it for?
It's for the country.
How?
It's for the country.
No. How? What was the good? Nice try.
If Obama asked.
Hold up, Deontay. Nice try.
Not even Obama.
Deontay. Hold up, Deontay. Deontay. Nice try. Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Lindsey Graham. Deontay. Today, Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Ted Cruz literally posed that question today in the impeachment trial. Congressman Adam Schiff stood up and said, yes, and if President Obama had called for the investigation of Mitt Romney or his children, and where it would benefit him, that would be wrong and would be impeachable. Your question has been answered.
But it wouldn't do it.
You know, one of the things, this whole executive privilege piece, we got to remember, you can't use it as a sword and a shield. So you can't use it to prevent illegal conduct or to protect yourself.
And the Supreme Court actually said that in the case of Nixon, which was cited today, that a president, if that person is involved in wrongdoing, cannot use executive privilege to cover up wrongdoing.
So last point I'm going to make is this. Where's the crime? You don't need it to be a crime, but if you read the abuse of power article of impeachment, it lays out a crime. It just doesn't call it bribery, but it lays out bad and criminal conduct. And so this whole argument about that's not a crime and it's not impeachable, it is a crime. They just called it abuse of power. And so we have to be really careful to sort through these arguments, these specious arguments the GOP is making, because every time they make one, there is either case law or something that corroborates the falsity of what their arguments are. You can't really get around it. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see. The Senate is on trial. Their morality is on trial. Their righteousness in the Constitution is on trial. If they don't call witnesses with a straight face, I'll be honest with you, that strengthens the possibility or the probability of a Democratic president winning. I believe that because you got to walk away from the independents and the moderate Republicans, and you're not going to get the Democrats.
Mustafa, I'm just trying to understand how you can do wrong, but then say, oh, you should be held accountable, when the only provision that is provided in the U.S. Constitution, you know that document the Republicans say they love, the party of law and order, the only provision to hold a president accountable for his action is impeachment. It's right there in the Constitution. The framers put it in there for that very reason.
This is privilege. This is privilege playing out. When someone tells you that this man doesn't have, you know, that he can do whatever he wants, and it's very disheartening for folks not to live up to their responsibilities in the Senate. Thank goodness that the House did. And here's the other thing. Bolton used to be the poster child for conservatism. So for folks to say that they don't trust him now is really interesting.
Real interesting.
And that's the reason we need to let him testify.
Well, first of all, there's going to be a vote on Friday as to whether or not to allow witnesses. Yep. And then Republicans want to end this as quickly as possible. The State of the Union address is next Tuesday. The question is, do they have the votes? As of last night, Mitch McConnell said he did not have the votes necessary to stop witnesses. So we'll see what takes place over the next 48 hours. All right, folks, the Trump administration is attempting to reverse Obama-era rules that fight racial discrimination in housing and desegregation of American neighborhoods for a half-century known as the Fair Housing Act. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is completing a regulation scaling back a rule that combats racial discrimination even when it's unintended, such as banking lenders' use of algorithms that disproportionately reject applicants of color. Other proposed changes include eliminating a rule withholding federal funding from cities and municipalities that fail to confront segregation. Deontay, I'm trying to understand this here. Here's a rule that is meant to ensure you do not have discrimination in housing. One of the first things Republicans did when Donald Trump became president was they also overturned an Obama-era rule that was about ending discrimination against black folks when it came to buying cars. Why are Republicans so concerned about repealing or rolling back efforts that are meant to end discrimination against black people?
Well, for starters, this is all about hypotheticals. I read the article, and the article is on what the banks would do. It didn't say what the banks have done, it's what the banks would do, or we're estimating on what the banks would do.
Actually, the point of the law was, the point of the regulations were put in place because of what banks did.
But we're talking about what they would do. Not what they've done.
It was put
what they would do under this law.
It was put in place because of what banks did. This is removing it, which means banks could go back to doing what they were doing before.
But the purpose of the rollback was because of some discrepancies within where they talked about the size, where they talked about population. There was some things that was not taken into account in the Obama administration that's why they rolled it back.
No.
Yes.
They're rolling it back because Republicans don't like regulation. It's called deregulation. The same reason why they voted to roll back the rules that targeted discrimination against black folks in buying cars. I'm just trying to understand, if Donald Trump so-called loves black people, and black people are doing so well under Donald Trump, why are you rolling back laws intended to end discrimination against black people? Are you defending that? Do you support this effort?
I think it's like I said, as I said before, it's an article that's taken out of content.
No, I'm asking
It's an article that.
But it's an article that is taken out of content. You mean context?
Yes.
Okay, so put it in context then.
Is that there was discrepancies within the Obama rule. Okay, they did not take into consideration of population size, which causes problems for places like New York, causes problems for places like Chicago and all of our bigger cities.
He about to pull something up on you, by the way.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
What I've never
if you look at the article, it's hypothetical.
I want to talk about the National Community Reinvestment Act, which is the banking regulation that's been in place that requires developers, investors, businesses, and banks who bank to them, banks to reinvest in challenged communities and communities of color, and that's going to be rolled back, or there's a proposal to roll that back. What I've never understood about Republicans is that this Reinvestment Act not only generates revenues for banks, but it also generates community and economic empowerment to generate revenues and jobs and job training and business growth in our most challenged communities, which strengthens the American economy, strengthens everyone who's a part of that investment deal, and strengthens the banks in our communities of color. And Republicans are against that, which means that you can't. There are other issues vis-a-vis whether it's race-based or not.
Right.
But if it helps, if it's a rising tide and helps everyone in the American economy, then you're left with, well, I just don't want people of color to do well.
I'm trying to
I only want people that look like them to do well.
Deontay, I want you to answer this, and Mustafa, once you come in here, this was from Politico 2 days ago. Sure. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has proposed cutting back on collecting data that helps track discrimination in the mortgage market. You support that?
No, I don't support discrimination at all.
Hold on, but that's
however,
hold on, that's a part of these rollbacks, though.
I don't support discrimination at all. However,
but this is part of the rollbacks.
However, the article that was provided
So that's
talks about a hypothetical.
So hold up.
Hypothetical.
So that's the only article you read?
No, I read other articles.
Okay,
but it
well,
talks about,
I mean, right
but it
here.
talks about
How
hypothetical.
can you prevent redlining if you don't have the data?
I mean, right? How? Mustafa. I mean, look, you deal with this again.
Yep.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
Yep.
which Donald Trump has gutted since he was president, has proposed cutting back on collecting data that helps track discrimination in the mortgage market. That's according to this Politico story from January 25th. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is really simple, and I don't know why Republican brothers and sisters don't get it. Maybe they do get it, and the reason they're moving forward. This is an attempt to limit power inside of communities. If you are able to garner real estate and build wealth, then you can strengthen your communities. If your communities are strengthened, then they no longer have to deal with all of these other types of things that are going on. They can focus on voting. They can focus and have free time to be able to attend meetings, all these various things that actually help to hold people accountable. And here's the other thing. Since you wanted to raise President Obama's name, so since President Trump has come into office, last year there were 4 million housing discrimination cases. And every year since he's come in, it's increased by 8%. So let's talk about that for a second. If folks are actually trying to do the right thing and help protect folks. So you can go ahead and Google that.
Also, answer this, Deontay. This is from the same Political story. The act, this is the Fair Housing Act. The act outlawed discrimination in housing. It also required communities to work to end segregation. But a government audit in 2010 found that HUD's enforcement of the law was largely ineffective. Obama addressed that in 2015 by requiring local governments to track patterns of poverty and segregation with a checklist of 92 questions to gain access to federal housing funds. That's what Trump wants to roll back. There's him and Ben Carson is like, nah, you don't need to fill the form out. So to Scott's point, how do you know there's discrimination if you aren't tracking to find that out? So in essence, forget all the data, no need for any of that. It's just gonna happen. How do you do that if you don't have the data?
We should have the data. I am not saying that there should not be data.
Okay, Deontay, I'm confused.
I'm not saying there should be data.
You're saying it shouldn't be, but the rollback is to stop collecting the data.
What I'm saying is when we talk in percentages of the bank, when we're talking about the banks, that's all hypothetical. That's all I said was that it's a hypothetical of what the banks could do.
No, it's not. We literally have 100 years of history.
Did you have a problem buying your house?
Hell yes, I do. Hold on. See?
Okay.
See?
Here we go.
See,
What are
here's
you
the deal.
mad about?
Deontay,
What are you
here's
mad
what you
about?
do. Never ask a question the ass don't know the answer. When my wife and I bought our house, my first wife, bought our house in Mansfield, Texas. Okay? Now, both of us, at the time, we're making in excess of $400,000.
Okay.
The bank saw our income and asked us, they want to see deposit slips.
Okay.
That shit ain't in the law. There's nowhere it says that I have to supply you. They want to see actual deposit slips. We ain't giving your ass no damn deposit slips.
But even with the current law that Obama has,
Stop.
or even the
You
current law, but even with the current law, they can still do that same thing.
Okay,
they can still discriminate. They can still discriminate.
This is what you still missed. The point of the data is to actually uncover those things. What the Obama folks did here was they said to cities, you have to submit actual plans to lay out how you're going to end segregation in housing. Ben Carson says, oh, this is too cumbersome. It's too much red tape. Tell that to the black folks who are discriminated against. Tell it to the black people who lost 53% of all black wealth due to subprime loan crisis. If we did not have data, we wouldn't know those things. You're unable to prove discrimination if there's no data to actually show it. So for them wanting to sit here and roll it back, that's exactly what it is. And here's what's interesting. White homeownership, 73% today. Black folks at its lowest level since 1968. So why in the hell would the administration who you support would be wanting to roll back what's already at its lowest point since 1968?
Red tape does not stop discrimination. It's not going to stop discrimination.
It damn sure can limit it if I can prove it.
It ain't going to stop it.
Well, hell, first of all, America's still a white country. So we know they ain't going to stop discrimination.
Correct. So as you just said, when you bought your house in Texas, they asked you for stuff that wasn't even legal for them to ask.
And guess what? If I was one of those folks who didn't know the law, I could have gotten screwed by the very bank, could have been denied my loan as a result. But when I let their ass know, they realized I'm one of them Negroes they were afraid of when they allow us to read.
So
just because I was able to get my loan does not mean, Mustafa, other black folks have not been able to get their loans. To your point, when you're able to show the level of housing discrimination that we've seen in this country. Go ahead.
So the best thing that you could do is educate more people. So
The best thing I can do, Deontay, the best thing that I can do is to educate people, have lawyers on, and fight the Trump administration from rolling back these sort of procedures, which actually help folks. And what you are doing are making excuses for Trump.
You cannot tell me during the Obama administration that these problems did not happen.
Dude, let me read again.
But you cannot.
Hold on, stop. Let me read slower.
You can read slower. But you cannot tell me that those problems did not happen under the Obama administration.
Slower.
You cannot tell me that people was not discriminated when they went to the bank for the loan.
I'm going to take my time to read this.
Read it.
The Fair Housing Act outlawed discrimination. Let me go to a paragraph earlier. Obama tried to add teeth to the Fair Housing Law, which passed in 1968 within a week of the murder of Martin Luther King Jr., as deadly riots swept through largely black neighborhoods in cities across the country. The act outlawed discrimination in housing. It also required communities to work to end segregation. But a government audit in 2010, Obama had been president since January 2019, 2008, found that HUD's enforcement of the law was largely ineffective, meaning that from 1968 to 2010, HUD's enforcement of the Fair Housing Act was ineffective. Quote, Obama addressed that in 2015 by requiring local governments to track patterns of poverty and segregation with a checklist of 92 questions to gain access to federal housing funds. Now, allow me to translate. What that means is Obama said, wow, here we have an analysis that's saying the laws have been ineffective. So therefore, we're going to put something in place to strengthen the Fair Housing Act of 1968. It's in 2015. Here we are in 2020, and for the last 2.5 years, Donald Trump and Ben Carson have been trying to roll that back because, as Carson said, quote, Carson called Obama's system too burdensome and said last year that it was actually suffocating investment in some of our most distressed neighborhoods. This month, he moved towards scrapping the tracking system with a proposal that doesn't include the term segregation. Now, please explain to me, how will you be able to ascertain if there's segregation in housing if you strike the word segregation and you get rid of the tracking system to actually track segregation? Please, take your time.
What I said, and I'm going to repeat myself, is regardless of whatever red tape, whatever regulation is there, it's still not going to stop segregation. I mean, not segregation, it's still not going to stop discrimination.
So, I'm sorry, so let me ask you a question. So do you want to, so your argument is that because discrimination will never be stopped, we can't lower it?
No, but
we can't lessen it?
But what you're saying
we can't bring it down?
But we need to fight to make sure that it's stopped in much way we can. But what I'm saying is, you saying, and this article is saying, is that because the Trump administration removed the red tape, or because the Trump administration removed the regulations, that it's going to cause an uproar and the banks are going to start discriminating against black people again.
I'm sorry, Mustafa, Scott, before. Do we not have history, documentation? When, do we not have, first of all, Deontay, since let me just open a straight up can of whoop ass on your argument.
Go ahead.
When the Shelby v. Holder decision came down from the Supreme Court and they gutted Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act, Scott, what did Republican legislatures do all across the country? What did they do?
Start suppressing the vote.
Suppressing the vote.
Polling,
voter ID. Gerrymandering, closing polling locations.
If you had the wrong information,
Shelby v. Holder, 1,200 voting locations across the South have been shut down. Mm-hmm. Why? Because after Shelby v. Holder was gutted, you didn't have pre-clearance of the Department of Justice cleared any election changes. So what does that tell you, Deontay? There's history. So when Republicans, when the law was eliminated, Republicans quickly moved to disenfranchise black people. There's your history lesson for today. Scott, final comment.
Well, I think you said it all, quite frankly. But what difference does it make whether it happens under Obama or under Trump? It's wrong. Let me give you a better argument for you as a Republican. I don't mean to be offensive. I'm a business Democrat. You don't like the 95 questions you got to go through? That's red tape and stuff. Why don't the Republicans not
bucks each for the whole year? You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join Dr. Jackie Hood Martin as she engages others to think like a leader. Are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? You can join her newest online course, the Mastermind Group, How Successful People Think. She will be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires February 28th, so register at www.livetolead.com/Leesburg. That's livetolead.com/Leesburg. Since 2005, when Dr. Bennet Omalu first reported finding widespread brain damage in a former NFL player, concerns about CTE have inspired a global revolution in concussion safety and warned of a crisis for America's most popular sport. Omalu's discovery, which was initially ignored and then attacked by NFL allied doctors, inspired scientific research that forced the league to acknowledge a link between football and brain disease. But according to a recent story published in the Washington Post, there is consensus among a lot of folks in the brain science community that Omalu routinely exaggerates his accomplishments and dramatically overstates the known risk of CTE in contact sports. They also believe that Omalu did not discover or name the disease. Joining me right now to respond to the Washington Post article in this exclusive interview, the first time he's commented since it was published, is forensic pathologist and neuropathologist Dr. Bennet Omalu. Doc, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, Roland. How are you? Thank you for having me.
So the Washington Post dropped this story, and the first thing they say is that you have overstated the fact that you discovered CTE. They also said, according to these various scientists, that you didn't even name it, that that name has existed for decades. How do you respond?
Okay, how I responded 18 years ago, these were the same claims the NFL made. But the NFL did not go to the pages of a newspaper. We went to the scientific domain. They published a scientific paper, and I responded. And that crushed it. And suddenly, they are coming back in a very dubious way to go to the pages of a newspaper and make claims that are very reckless and very dangerous. The moment you begin to attack scientists like myself on the public domain, that is not good for science. You come up with a hypothesis, like I did in 2002 after the Mike Webster case. Before Mike Webster, we knew of dementia pugilistica. So the NFL attacked me and said the Mike Webster case was not dementia pugilistica. I said, yes, it's not dementia pugilistica. Then what is it? That we may be getting it wrong. We've always believed this only affected boxers. that it did not affect only boxers, that it affects everybody who has suffered from traumatic brain injury. And instead of calling this disease dementia pugilistica, we had to give it a new name. The big question was, what name do we give it? I couldn't call it dementia footballitica or Mike Webster's disease or football dementia. I had to give it a name with a name that is already in the literature. Because if I don't give it a name that is already in the literature, it wouldn't pass the Dobbert principle of law. It would be dismissed in the court of law as a novel idea. And so to say, oh, because I wasn't the first to use the name that I didn't discover a disease. There's a word I want to use, but I don't want to use it here. It's irresponsible. It's reckless. Why do you think they did not make these claims on the pages of a science journal or a science paper? Because no journal will publish that. That is very silly and stupid. So my comment is we need to ignore such reckless claims. And I think the colleges of physicians across the world should speak out and condemn such cowardly acts.
So, Doc, I got to ask you this question. I got to ask you this question. So this is what the Washington Post says. Omalu did not discover CTE, nor did he name the disease. The alarming statistics he recites about contact sports are distorted, according to the author of the studies that produced those figures. And while Omalu cultivates a reputation as the global authority on CTE, it's unclear whether he is diagnosing it correctly, according to several experts on the disease.
Okay. I was the first to publish a paper on CTE in football players, on CTE in wrestlers, CTE in mixed martial artists, CTE in the military. So when I was publishing these papers, there were no criteria for the diagnosis of CTE until 14 years later, after I had published all my papers. And in 2009, I came up with the types of CTE I was seeing. So what the Washington Post is saying, that Omalu did not use the criteria for the NIH that were not existent when I was doing my work. Does that make sense to you?
Right, because in this article, they're saying that that what you publish does not depict or describe the disease as the medical science community defines it. So what they're saying is that you initially defined it differently than how they're defining it. So what they're saying is because they have set the standard definition, that yours is irrelevant. Is that how you?
That is nonsensical. Let me give you a good analogy. Dr. Alzheimer's defined and discovered Alzheimer's disease over 100 years ago. The criteria Dr. Alzheimer's used then are totally different from the criteria we use today. But nobody has said that Dr. Alzheimer's did not discover CTE or did not discover Alzheimer's disease because he did not use the criteria we are using today. But when it comes to somebody like me, it's totally different. So don't listen to such, and I said in my response, we don't practice science on the pages of a newspaper. If any scientist has a problem with the hypothesis I proposed in 2002, let him write a scientific paper and I would respond. What I did in 2002 was I did a very disruptive work, epoch-making work that totally changed the way we look at traumatic brain injury. And then I invited other doctors to test my hypothesis. This is what I believe. And since 2002, there has not been a single paper that has disputed my work and my hypothesis and propositions. Thousands of papers have been published confirming that Omalu is right. So let me tell you what happened. The NFL and their so-called doctors, if you notice, they don't mention the doctors' names. We fought this battle 18 years ago. I prevailed. The truth prevailed. We all prevailed because this is for the good of humanity. And now, because they lost the first battle, they're now coming to play dirty, to go to the pages of the newspaper where I cannot respond. If you want to respond, they tell you, oh, we don't think we can publish it now. So the narrative, maybe they believed, because it's 20 years now that people may have forgotten what happened. So they are coming now with alternative truths. These are very complex and complicated scientific principles. And in science, they are the innovators, people who think outside the box, people who are disruptive in the way they think. And there are people who are there to recycle work that has been created. What happens is when you are innovative, people are more likely to attack you and challenge you because you're disrupting the way they are comfortable with.
Doc, I want to read this paragraph here. Stephen Dikoski, a neurologist and deputy director of the McKnight Brain Institute at the University of Florida, was one of Omalu's early collaborators. In a phone interview, Dikoski said he and Omalu knew in 2005 they had not discovered a new disease. Dikoski knew the disease as dementia pugilistica, however, and agreed with Omalu that they should rename it because Webster hadn't been a boxer. Omalu suggested CTE. Dikoski believed then that Omalu had come up with the name, he said, until he later learned researchers had been using the term for years. Quote, I was a bit embarrassed, Dikoski said. He said he has no idea why Omalu continues to claim he discovered and named the disease. How would you respond to what Stephen Dikoski said?
If you look at the Mike Webster paper, I was the primary author. Dikoski was a co-author. I wrote the paper. So Dikoski, who was a much senior, Dikoski is now retired, the much senior doctor. He didn't know what I did on day-to-day basis while writing the paper. So what I did in 2002 was I introduced a new concept that this is more than boxers. This is not dementia pugilistica, that the way we've been thinking about this disease for hundreds of years is wrong. That this disease affects every spectrum of contact sports. We couldn't call it dementia pugilistica because this is not dementia pugilistica. I did not discover the concept that traumatic brain injury causes brain damage. No. Before the work we did, we used to think dementia pugilistica was called what is called an amyloidopathy. We thought it was a different type of protein. And I said, no, what I'm seeing here is not amyloid. Now, what I'm seeing here is tau. So this is a completely new disease or new disease process, whatever you want to call it. We couldn't call it dementia pugilistica. So this disease we've discovered, what do we call it? I couldn't give it any name I wanted. I went back to the literature to look for names that are already in the literature. I have never said that I was the first to use that terminology. It is not possible. How could you be the first to use the terminology chronic, traumatic, encephalopathy? These are generic terminologies. But the naysayers will want, when people are not being honest and truthful, they will add up lies to make their alternative truths more believable. I have never said I was the first to use the terminologies. It's not possible. It's like saying that Albert Einstein was the first to use the terminology theory of relativity. But in terms of the disease we saw, we needed to give it a name. And because of a principle called the Doubert principle, people could research it as D-A-U-B-E-R-T. I couldn't use a new name for it. So I used names already in the literature to name this disease we've discovered. I made several hypotheses in my paper that other scientists should test my hypothesis. And guess what? I was proven wrong. CTE has become an accepted disease, even a household name. Everybody, including my 9-year-old son, knows what CTE is. The science has moved forward. So why are we going back to what happened 18, 20 years ago?
What do you think is at play here? Do you believe that there are other doctors, scientists, researchers who want to be the leader in this? This is sort of like when folks were dealing with HIV and AIDS, and you had these different doctors across the globe who were trying to be the first to discover this or discover that to go down in history. Do you believe that that is what is at play here with this article with these doctors?
That is what is at play here. You know, I'm not American. I'm a foreigner who came to America to discover a disease in America's most popular sport. Many American doctors find that embarrassing. And there's been a narrative to displace me. But what I want to share with the world, I'm a Christian. Today, I performed 9 autopsies. I'm very aware of my mortality. Look at Kobe Bryant died last weekend. I could be dead tomorrow. What does it beget you to inherit the whole world and lose your soul? Because you want to be recognized for something Omalu was recognized for, you're willing to destroy Omalu's name just for your own self-aggrandizement. That is what is called wickedness. And people should see it for what it is. This happened 18, 20 years ago. I've moved on. What I'm working on now is how to find ways to diagnose CTE in living people and to treat CTE. I've moved away from how CTE is diagnosed. Let other people take care of that. I'm moving on to the next frontier. I mark my word, when I do the same work, some other person will come to take a benefit for it. And I've been told, Roland, I did not grow up in this country. But African Americans have told me that, look, Bennet, what you're experiencing is a repeat of precedents of the experience, the Black experience in America. That is what I've been told, that I should stand strong, let my work speak for itself. So let me ask you, my work has existed now for almost 20 years. How come suddenly, 18, 20 years later, people are beginning to talk about what happened 20 years ago? And when I did my work, these were the same narrative the NFL made, the same narrative they gained to impeach me, to discredit me. But they did it on the pages of science journals. They did not do it on the pages of a newspaper written by a sports writer who doesn't have any science background. Many of the things said in that article are bogus, are shameful, and sometimes I wonder, I hold America in very high regard. Well, after I read that article, I'm like, gee, is this the America I knew when I was a child? What is going on?
So I just want to be clear, because you said something, and it was also in this piece here, that you did not name CTE, you diagnosed a concept, but you admit that name, the name CTE, had been around for a number of years.
Yes, that is what in fact, if it had not been around, I wouldn't have used it. That is the point I'm making. Because of the double D-A-U-B-E-R-T, I'm also a forensic pathologist. Because I knew this disease was an occupational disease, that sooner or later it will be in the court of law, which happened. And successfully, we had the settlement. And there are so many cases in the court of law today. Okay? So I chose that name because it was already in existence. And that was the name. Is like when you have a son. My son is Mark, and I named him Mark. And somebody is coming to say, oh, Mark is not my son because he's not the first person to be called Mark. That's nonsense. So the name had been there, and I had 26 names that I found in the literature. And I selected chronic traumatic encephalopathy because it sounded very erudite. It had a good acronym. And it is actually a very generic terminology. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not a specific name. It doesn't really mean it's a bad brain associated with trauma. So I said, this is the terminology I will use. And I said to the world, this disease I'm proposing to the world that I saw in Mike Webster's brain, I will call it chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And this is what I believe caused it. Repeated banging of his head, concussions and subconcussions. Let the world go test it and prove me wrong. The world did not prove me wrong. In fact, I've been recognized. People have said, Bennet, oh my gosh, you were very successful. How did you come up with this concept? So you now notice, rather than debating the concept, the disease with me, they are now moving away to the periphery to pick up things that are immaterial, that don't really make any sense. Why don't you engage me in the debate? What is CTE? I said, There are many, many more. If you go back to my first paper, that I believe this disease was an epidemic. Guess what? The same Dr. McKee that is criticizing me did a study and found that almost 99% of the retired football players have CTE. If you go, I wrote an op-ed in the Daily Mail newspaper 2 months ago. They discovered that soccer players in Scotland have a higher risk of developing dementia and CTE. I was invited. I wrote an op-ed. And guess what? Today, Scotland is limiting heading in soccer. The same thing in America. I said no child under the age of 18 should head the ball. Guess what? The Soccer Federation in the United States has reduced had stated no child under the age of 12 should head the ball. So everything I've pronounced, everything I have said, people have validated and reproduced on the pages of scientific journal. So what is the problem?
Dr. Bennet Omalu, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to share with us your thoughts and give us an exclusive interview responding to this Washington Post article. Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much, Roland.
All right. I want to go to my panel, Mustafa. Again, you look at this Washington Post piece. Yeah. All the different doctors here, and I think if you look at it, and the reason I use the AIDS example, I mean, I remember all of these folks were clamoring who discovered what and who was going to find a cure and who, all these different, and it was a battle because it came down to who eventually, for history, will be the one who gets the credit. Do you think that's what is at play here?
I think there's a strong possibility that there's something like that that's going on. But also, we know that also with who found things, there are resources that are tied to that. And, you know, sometimes that is it all, you know, there's a connection that's there.
Well, it's in this article. In this article, to that point, where the perfect example I'll read from what the Post reported. The National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke recently launched a $16 million effort to study CTE in people who are still alive. It involves 50 investigators at 17 institutions. Omalu said he believes racism also played a role in his not being included in that group. Then they say, NIH says that as a matter of policy, they cannot discuss applicants for a grant other than those who received it, but that the grant-making system is entirely transparent. Omalu is trying to also raise his own $10 million to fund a clinical trial on this whole issue.
Yeah. A lot of dollars that are attached to research. When I used to work for Congressman Conyers, he used to always tell me, follow the dollars, and he'll tell you everything you need to know about a situation. So we need to make sure that people are paying attention to that also and see who's truly benefiting from this.
Deontay, your assessment of what you heard from Doc, and then, of course, this Washington Post article.
I agree. You know, it's all about the dollars. It's all about the Benjamins, and you definitely want to, you know, who gets the credit also based upon, you know, where they want to put the money, and also I think it does play a race issue of, you know, in history, who do you want to be known as finding a cure for AIDS? You want to be known for finding a cure for cancer, you know. So I think that's where I'm at with that.
Again, it was very interesting to read this article, so I certainly appreciate Dr. Omalu for coming on the show, sharing his thoughts. Got to go to break real quick, and then we'll come back with our final story back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. On Monday and Tuesday, the Congressional Black Caucus is calling for an emergency national summit of African-American leadership on Monday, February 3rd. There will be a convening taking place at the Hyatt Regency Washington Capitol Hill. We will be there live streaming the event as well. Then on February 4th, on Tuesday, there's going to be a day-long session taking place in the United States Capitol at the theater there as well. And so this is about focus on the 2020 election, but also the U.S. Census. And so the Congressional Black Caucus Political Action Committee will be holding the event on Monday, and the CBC will be holding the event on Tuesday. For more information, go to cbc.house.gov/2020 summit. That's cbc.house.gov/2020 summit. Virginia officially became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment on Monday. This will likely lead to court fights over whether the measure can be added to the Constitution. State lawmakers made history earlier this month when each chamber of the General Assembly separately approved ratification resolutions. On Monday, the House and Senate took the final procedural step of signing off on each other's measures. Here's the announcement.
So this is it. This is the day that Virginia becomes the 38th and final state needed to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment to the United States Constitution. Standing here today, I know the shoulders of the giants that I stand on. The people who came before me fighting for the Equal Rights Amendment for decades. To all of you, I say thank you. Thank you to the women and men who have agitated for equality, disrupted the status quo, and fought fearlessly for change. I, along with 160 million women and girls across this nation, your mothers, your daughters, we say thank you. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. These 24 words will be the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution.
The resolutions on bipartisan votes overseen by Senate President Pro Tem Louise Lucas and House Speaker Eileen Filler-Corn. Both Filler-Corn and Lucas are the first women to hold their titles in Virginia. The push for ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment has been a long battle, and the future is certainly still uncertain. All right, folks, the Grammys took place on Sunday. What is happening there, of course, folks, music and all the folks walking the red carpet. But one of the issues that came up again was, why is it that black celebrities ignore black media on the red carpet? Now, black media folks have been complaining about this for a number of years, not only at the Grammys, but at the Emmys, at the Oscars, all of these major award shows, how many of these publicists will simply just walk their clients by, because also what happens is they put black media at the end of the carpet. And so you go through all the major media outlets first, and then they're tired of talking. So it's like, oh, I got to get inside, and they bypass black media. Well, Black Tree Media, first of all, Black Tree Media, which has covered the show for the last 14 years, they were there with their cameras this year and actually decided to show what took place. Check this out.
Hey, Gucci, come on, man. Do it for the black media, Gucci. It's black-owned media, Gucci. Don't just do people. Come on, Gucci. Come on, Gucci, man. Come on, the hood right here. Hey, Gucci, I was in 6 Southwest with you. Gucci, I was in 6 Southwest. Come on, man. Do the black media, man. Don't just do Vulture. Don't just do people. Don't just do people, Quavo. Come on, Quavo. How you gonna be for the hood like that? I'm calling you.
Joining us now is Jamal Finkley, show creator of Black Tree on TV. Jamal, man, you've straight up got a lot of people's attention with this, and you just said enough is enough.
Yeah. I mean, as any journalist, like, you hate to be the story. I'm used to covering celebrities, and they're always the exciting story for our viewers on all of our partner networks and everything. But I mean, it was a time. It was an emotional time. Just hearing about Kobe and everything, and part of you just wanted to be like, yo. We only hear for a limited time. I'm tired of not saying anything. I'm tired of not showing it, because after all these years, it should be different, and I feel like we all play a part in that. So that's why I want to just turn the lens around this time. Like, let me just show people what I really see, because they only see the good side of it all the time. I'm like, let me just show you how it really is, like what the struggle is for us.
And look, this is not just something that happens even at these award shows. I mean, look, we talked about it. I mean, it happens at the NAACP Image Awards. I mean, last year we were on the red carpet, and I forgot the sister's name, but she was the star of If Beale Street Could Talk, and it was a trip because her publicist was telling her, no, not to do it. You know, we're gonna wait for, I think it was Extra or Access Hollywood, and she's literally looking at her going, okay, he just talked to me last month, and we shot the whole deal. We actually have the video of it, and so that happens. And the thing that I don't understand, Jamal, is, and I keep saying this, and I've been saying it for years, to all these black stars, you pay them.
Exactly.
You don't. You can say no. No, I'm gonna go talk for 30 seconds to black media.
Yeah. I mean, it's disheartening, and when you know, like, the whole other side of it, that, you know, I was next to a string of 3 black media outlets, and allhiphop.com and The Grape and EUR Web was a bit down, and you know these ladies and gentlemen that's working in the industry got their hair done, got nice suits, you know people are being paid, and it's just like this is work. We're here to get content, to share with our viewers, to tell a story, and if you guys just ignore us like this, how do we survive?
But the other deal, Jamal, let's just be honest. These same folk beg us to come on our platforms before they blow up. And then when they blow up, all of a sudden it's like, now you can't talk to us.
Right. I mean, that's definitely the lineage of going from being, talking and then not. But then there's some of the biggest stars that always talk. Will Smith always talks. Tom Cruise, if you could get on the carpet, he always talks, you know. And you look at it like part of it was thinking about, we've had 4 interviews with Kobe Bryant, you know. And we interviewed Nipsey, you know, right on the eve of his death in one of his first interviews. And you think about the greatest stars was sometimes, because the reason, what makes them great is like the way they know the business. And when you see, you know, a lot of people just taking us for granted and not talking to us, like it's a slap in the face. It's disrespectful, and it's no way for us to progress as media outlets, as people that's holding their image, with some endearment to. It's no way for us to do that when we don't have the opportunities.
Well, and that's absolutely it. So look, we certainly appreciate you showing that, exposing that. People need to see it. But people also just need to understand what we have to deal with in black media. And like I said, when people get in trouble, it's amazing how they got our phone numbers. It's amazing how, or when they're working on a project and they're not getting the publicity support, and it's an independent project, how, man, they all got our emails and phone numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Doc.
There's a lot of facets to it, man. I just hope, like, this conversation, although, like I said, I'm uncomfortable being a part of the story. I mean, I just hope this conversation leads to, you know, some bigger solutions. So just us looking in the mirror, the publicists looking in the mirror, the studios, these award show staff. Like, I think, like, everybody needs to look in the mirror and say, like, if we're going to be accountable for everything, if we're going to respect everybody in 2020, if we're going to be moving into this right direction, we need to, like, stop ignoring what's an obvious misfortune.
Yep. All right, Jamal, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
This is the thing, Mustafa, that people, I appreciate Jamal, thanks a lot, that people don't understand that's real. Mm-hmm. That when you're in black media, how you get dissed and ignored.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take care of home. And, you know, for folks coming up, you should treat folks the same way when you get to the top. But you made the best point. is that, you are paying folks, and stop allowing them to herd you. Stop allowing them to tell you who you can and cannot speak to, and make sure that you are supporting, where you come from.
Deontay, that's the thing that, look, this can apply to politics. Same thing happens when you have politicians who don't necessarily want to do what's right. Then all of a sudden, you got to call them out when they'll quickly call the Washington Post and the New York Times and those folks, and then they ignore black media. Then, of course, a story crops up dealing with past racial comments, and next thing you know, boy, they know how to call black people left and right.
I think it's the same thing even as a strategist, how hard you work to get a candidate in, and they get elected, and 2 years later, whatever, during the off year when they're not running, you hear nothing from them, or when it's a scandal, oh, they need you. Or even just a black organization, even a black Republican organization, and I've seen this with white Republicans and black Republicans, is that when you need something, when nothing's going on, you don't hear from them. But when there's a scandal, especially if there's a black issue, oh, yeah, I'm going to call the Black Conservative Federation and see if they can release a statement.
I want to play this here. This is an interview that I did with Kerry Watson a couple of years ago where we actually talked about this. I should have it up. Go to it.
Preach.
I've been in black media more than anybody else. And I have interviewed a lot of people, political entertainment. And I've told many people this, what I appreciate is your deal has been, I am talking to Roland. I'm doing this media. 2012, we were back and forth trying to get you on, talk about scandal. I had Judy on, I had Columbus on, and I remember we were standing, I was doing a live shot, and you were about to do a live hit, and we didn't realize that we were standing next to each other, and so we hugged, and you turned to the ABC person, you are getting me on TV One.
Yeah.
And you make that point that's important, and I tell black folks in Hollywood all the time, we're always
here.
here.
Your community.
Don't forget us.
Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget your community. Why would you want to? It's who you are. You can do everything, but don't let go of yourself to do everything. Do everything as yourself, with your community. Otherwise, you'll be lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
I love you.
Appreciate it. I love you as well. Let me tell you what actually happened there. So she was doing, it was either Jimmy Kimmel or was it Jimmy Fallon, and this was when she was doing the HBO movie where she played Anita Hill, and Wendell Pierce played Clarence Thomas, and the publicists, they were like, well, we got to do this interview over here, and so they wanted to give me 20 minutes, and then do the longer interview with one of those two. Kerry said, how about they get 20 minutes and Roland gets the hour? And that's exactly what happened. That's how we got the hour interview. Because she said no, because she also was like, what everybody forgets, Scandal was a mid-season replacement. It was an 8-episode mid-season replacement that was in the spring of 2012. They were not put on the fall schedule in 2011. She told me about the show in 2011. And I sent the first tweet out when they didn't get picked up on the fall schedule. All these people talk about they call themselves these gladiators. No. I sent the first tweet out saying my disappointment, Scandal didn't get picked up. People didn't realize is that Scandal only had a 13-episode commitment in the fall of 2012. Because the ratings kept getting better, ABC said, let's do a full season of 22 episodes. Okay? So all you people who watch Scandal, if you see the episode where Tony Goldwyn, playing the president, he suffocates the Supreme Court justice, that was supposed to be the season-ending and show-ending episode. But then they got picked up, so they were like, oh, damn, because those episodes are already canned, like, okay, we got to figure out how to restart the show. So Kerry was like, yo, who was riding for me before the New York Times and People Magazine were calling? And that's why she did that. And so that's why that's important. And so I hope by Jamal calling out those black celebrities that they will have some level of consciousness and tell their publicists that, yo, if I got to be inside the doors in 15 minutes, I'm going to cut some stuff short here. I got to make sure that I do it down there. Even if you do even if you got 3, 4, or 5 folks down there and you they all do an interview together, that way they're all able to get some stuff you can't do individual, that's fine. But that has to happen. And I'm telling you, for y'all who don't realize it, it's a whole bunch of people in politics and a whole bunch of people in business and entertainment who do this stuff to black media all the time. I've run 3 black newspapers, 2 black cable networks, black website, black magazine. I've seen it, and I personally cussed some folks out and made clear I will not play that game, because demanding that you're going to respect what we bring to the table. And sometimes you got to have that attitude, so I appreciate what Jamal did there with Black Tree TV. Folks, last story here, Chris Doleman, a star defensive end at Pitt from 1981 through 84, who went on to a Hall of Fame career as a dominant pass rusher of the NFL, has passed away. He was 58 years old. The 4th overall pick of the 1985 draft by the Minnesota Vikings, Doleman played 15 seasons in the NFL and holds status as one of the most productive pass rushers of all time. Defensive end and outside linebacker, he was an 8-time Pro Bowler, earning 6 berths as a member of the Vikings and 1 each as a member of the Atlanta Falcons and San Francisco 49ers. Doleman received his Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement in 2012. He died of brain cancer. He had a brain tumor that was removed last year. Certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. All right, folks, that's it for us today. Don't forget to support Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give goes to support this show. You can use Cash App, PayPal, Square. We take all of those. Also, yesterday I had the shirt given to me by the Morehouse band director. Today I am repping the hoodie of University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And as you see, marching musical machine of the Mid-South. And so when I spoke at UAPB a few years ago, they gave me this here, and so that's why I'm rocking this today. So shout out to the folks at UAPB showing y'all some love today. That's it, folks. I gotta go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hey, tomorrow also is Thursday. The U.S. Postal Service, they're doing the stamp unveiling of the stamp for Gwen Ifill, taking place at Metropolitan AME Church. Roland Martin Unfiltered is going to be there live streaming the entire event that's taking place tomorrow here in Washington, D.C., 11 a.m. Eastern. So you want to check us out. Then on Friday, I'll be at North Carolina A&T, where I'll be speaking at the 60th anniversary of the Lunch Counter Sit-Ins. Of course, started by 4 North Carolina A&T freshmen. So that's going to be on Friday. And so that's why it's important for you to support what we do. For us to be able to go to the stamp unveiling of a Gwen Ifill, to be able to broadcast the North Carolina A&T anniversary of the Lunch Counter Sit-In. Look, other black media ain't doing this. Y'all take y'all time. Go. Y'all right now. You can go to Essence and Ebony and Black Enterprise and Blavity. You can go to all the Griot. You can go to all these black sites out here. And if it's not entertainment, they are not there covering the sort of stories that we cover every single day. That's why we do what we do. So we know mainstream not covering it. And that's why we're the only black media outlet that's doing this. That's why we need your help to remain black-owned and independent. So please support what we do by supporting Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Holla! You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards. He will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.